back to Imperfect Parenting. Brittney and I are here again with the infamous
Seth.
Beautiful, handsome
I like how he says his name.
Seth.
That's who it's
Seth
here.
Dahl. What's your middle name?
David.
Seth David.
I have two middle names. David Meyer.
David Meyer.
My mom's maiden name. Seth David Meyer Dahl.
There you go. I didn't know that. Thanks.
Welcome.
Well, that leads us to, it's a great segue into the meme.
Is it?
Nope.
Is it? Oh my God,
ahead,
I don't know
Brittney.
how that fits at all. I feel like if on my worst day, I might say this.
Oh.
So that's why I wanted to do it. It's from the movie Taken with Liam Neeson. If you haven't seen that, it's an intense movie.
Intense.
I don't
and
really
awesome.
like it, mostly because it's about a child being taken.
Yes,
and
not good.
it's intense, very intense. But he's on the phone. In the movie, he's on the phone with his daughter of the people who've taken him. So he's intensely on the phone, which, again, this is the role he plays in like all movies that
Every
I've
single
seen
movie.
him in. Except for maybe the Star Wars ones. He's a little more chill, but even then. And it says on it, I don't know who gave my child a whistle, but I will find you and I will kill you.
Can you do it one more time in a Liam Neeson accent?
I don't think
I'm kidding.
I almost tried, but then I was like, I don't think I could
I
do
don't
it.
know who.
But it's just very fitting for that scene and how I feel anytime that my kid comes home from any church event with a whistle or a harmonica.
Or from a grandparent's house with a new toy that has batteries and lights and
You know, I
sirens
will
and
say that I
sounds.
am guilty of
was
all of
first
my
thought.
my friends that were single, that got married, that, played the auntie role to my kids and did those things. Their first child, I find the most obnoxious toy to give them.
Just for fun?
For their
For
first
you?
birthday to their kid, because I think this is payback.
Lauren,
That's what I do.
Lauren told.
I just think it's funny.
I could go 10 rabbit trails right now. Lauren told everyone in our family, if you buy my kids those toys, they are going straight to Goodwill. I will not open them. I will not return them. I will not go out of my way.
This sounds like Lauren.
I will take them to
That's
Goodwill
awesome.
and give them to some other family who it can drive them nuts. But
Put the whistle away.
they'll put the whistle away. This is so, it's funny. Whoever gave my kid a whistle, I'll find you and kill you. The reason we put that one there is because we get a question often. I think we get, this is a common question for the people who are in this. Frequently asked question for
we were
people
having
in this scenario.
FAQ section for either one of our socials. This
would be-
always ends up
This
in
does.
there.
And today we want to talk about single parents, blended families, divorce, things like that. And so this would be a good picture of
One family.
one of the
Parents.
One of the parents is like, your other parent sent you home with this. I am going to kill them. It's kind of the deal. And so that's what we
tension.
want to talk about. Like, how do we navigate that? How do parents navigate that if they're a single parent, if you're divorced, if you have a blended family? This is just, it happens often. And what do we do when the other culture is completely different than ours? They may be doing stuff that's intentionally trying to drive us nuts. Kind of a thing. That's where we're going with this episode.
Yeah. I have a client that I've been working with that's in the process of divorce, 2 really young kids. And the thing that we've been working on the most is understanding, recognizing, and operating in being a powerful person in the midst of a very uncontrollable situation. Because she's discovering her need for control. She can't actually control.
Yeah.
And she feels out of control. She feels powerless because she's trying to control things she can't control. And especially now that they're separated and they've got 2 different homes and the kids are going back and forth. And she's exhausted. She feels hopeless. She's frustrated. And it's all her worst self coming out. And so one of the big things I talk about, especially if you're in the middle of this or it's something you're going through, is pay attention to what you do control and do a really good job with that. Otherwise, you make a mess of things.
Well, and in these situations also heighten your need to control. Because like, wow,
I'm scared.
I'm so scared.
Yeah.
And I have zero power over what happens over there. And I would
Or
love
what the
to.
courts do.
Yeah.
Or decide.
All of it,
all
yeah.
of this. And which is the trap of trying to, that's the she'll come and talk to me, and she's trying to figure out like how can she control this. I'm like,
You can't.
tell me how that you're going to control that. And I think that's just the trap that you can fall into is believing you can control something you can't,
Yeah.
and then exhausting yourself with trying to attain that.
How does a parent who recognizes that, how do they let go of it?
Well, what I've been doing with her is really a lot of going back to the Lord, because in my scared state, I want to overstep and be God.
God.
And
I don't trust you.
I don't trust you.
I trust me.
And so I want to take it into my own hands. So it's a big battle of going back to this place of, I believe that you care about my child, and I trust you're going to take good care of them, and you're going to take good care of me. And there's a lot of space, especially for a lot of people in this process. If it's new, your kids aren't home where they used to always be home. And the spiral that can go down, that's just crying, weeping. And I say, grieve this season,
Yes.
but bring him into it. God wants to be the comforter.
Yeah.
And often we grieve without him, which it just prolongs the process. So bringing him into this place, I think that's what helps position them to really find how to be powerful in it.
Yeah, it's kind of like sort of different, but Israel in the wilderness, like that's rough. We got out of a bad spot, but now we're in a wilderness. We're not in the promised land, but that could have been 40 days.
Yeah.
They extended it to 40 years. Like, we don't want to extend this. We want to follow the Lord and have him with us in this wilderness area of grief and mourning, so that we don't sit here 40 years when we could have been out in 40 days.
Yeah.
I heard Jason Valentin recently, a little bit different, but similar in how he asked this question himself, what do I control? And he was actually talking about kind of the COVID season we went through, where most people's anxiety went up.
Oh, yeah.
Most...
I think it's safe to say everyone's anxiety
Yeah.
went up.
Yeah.
How long it stayed up,
whole
I don't know.
planet.
But
Most families, most households experienced more anxiety than they started with. And his point there was, he actually said, mine went down. And the reason is I was able to look at my life and go, what do I control? Because we're often so afraid of what we don't control, and it's slipping through our hands, that our anxiety gets up and we think maybe today's the day when it's going to be different.
where all of a sudden I can control the planet.
And it just feels like it's just such a great example of this question you're bringing up of I feel so powerless when I'm stuck in what I don't control. But I begin to feel like I'm in charge of me again, and I'm getting some self-control back where I can lead me around and do a good job with me, because that's all I can do is a good job with me, and then lead you to do the same. But I think this culture piece that we talk about all the time as well is that's all I can do. Because if I'm so concerned about their culture, I'm going to be so focused on that, I'm missing the opportunity to build this over here.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I can control and can build and can influence, I'm missing the moment because my anxiety is just so out there and concerned.
Or it becomes everything I do here in my culture is a reaction.
Right.
Instead of, I'm not necessarily doing what I actually want and what God wants. I'm doing what you're not doing.
Yeah.
Because I'm so focused on that as well. Like, wow, that's not the best way to build the culture in your home either.
And I just want to say this real quick. And there's probably a lot of people who are fine right here, but there's also some people who do get stuck here. And I begin to feel disqualified because it didn't turn out the way I expected. And either someone said something that I felt disqualified, or I disqualified myself, or the enemy's whispering in my ear, and there's this disqualification happening. I think chasing that thing away is important. Don't let that lie in, that you're disqualified because the situation didn't pan out the way the dream started.
We say on the Kylo show that whole healthy families start with whole healthy people.
Yeah.
And I think, divorce, single parenting, all, when you had marriage, the covenant, and it's changed and now it's not that anymore, that's where that I think can
great.
set in. And, another mom that I've been meeting with, she's got a little older kids, and she's looking at her 13-year-old son going, I don't know what to do because I know his father's not a healthy male. And I said, yeah, well, how are you going to be the healthiest mom? She's like, I don't know. I said, that's what I'd be working on, because you can't be the healthiest father. You can be the healthiest mother. And that's what you develop and understand and foster so that you can create a healthy family.
Yeah. We just talked to a young man today, Seth and I, this morning.
Yeah.
We did a little cold plunge together.
At 7:30
You
a.m.
guys are enjoying that?
We wanted to.
Cold plunge.
It was
that's
snowing.
Not your average cold plunge. It was
snowing outside.
It's
almost
weird weather we're
ice.
having right
Yeah.
now. But
It was wonderful.
It was awesome.
After I got out.
They went 5 minutes in there.
I know. And they dove in. And
They
they're
dove in and then
hardcore.
stayed for 5 minutes. And me and you were like, we're just trying to get a minute and a half and we're out.
I'm good.
you guys have done it for a couple days now. That's probably
Yeah.
you're more experienced. You didn't need to prove anything.
We're not proving anything. And
And that's not why we're here.
We're just getting the benefits and we're
So
out.
what
so
did
we were
you have
having a
this conversation
conversation with this
for?
young man before that.
What we were saying.
Yeah.
We're sitting there talking, and I've known this young man for many, many years. Known his family, his family's family, and he grew up in a single parent home with a single mother. And he just painted this picture, and there's not really a right or wrong here. And Seth, you maybe have even talked to some growing up in a single mother home, but he shared this story about he has a sister, so him and his sister grew up with a mother.
Pretty
I
much
totally
their entire-
pastored them when they were small.
Oh, yeah.
I had them in kids' church.
We had them
In youth.
in
Yeah.
junior high.
All through, and he's still
Yeah.
connected. Beautiful. But his dad wasn't around, So I paint this picture to say this. He's talking about his mom chose the children for this season. She said, for this season, I need to work and provide for them because dad's not around. So I'm not going to pursue a relationship.
Yeah, she said she went on a couple. He said she went on a couple dates, but didn't really date anyone because she said I can focus on work and kids, or
That's
work
all I have
and
capacity
relationship,
for.
but I
Yep.
need to do work
Yep.
and kids.
So fast forward to now, and they're growing up and they're out of the house
in their
in their 20s.
20s.
Yeah.
The kids are now.
And she found a man, and she ended up having a baby, which is there's just this redemption and dream happening.
Awesome.
But I there's parts of the story I didn't realize. I was listening to him going, God is so good and he's so faithful, and it's never in our timing because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it was just such a beautiful story of redemption of a woman who gave her time and her energy and resources to her kids because that's what she was responsible for, and that's what the Lord gave her. And he said, watch what I'm going to do for you.
The crazy thing is, she wanted to raise a child with a husband. That
Yeah,
was her dream.
That's what he said.
She gets married. She's a little bit older. She has a kid who's 20-some years old.
Yep.
She was on birth control because they kind of let that go.
Yep.
And wasn't he
The new
husband?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He shouldn't.
he should be able to have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shouldn't be able to have kids, and she's on birth control because they're just trying to make sure, like, hey, well, then they end up having this baby anyway. I'm like,
Yeah.
God snuck through
It's just- yeah.
this. Oh,
Come on.
I was so happy.
I
When
know.
he said that, I'm like, you have a 2-year-old little tiny sister, and it's awesome for
It's
everyone.
beautiful.
It's your mom's dream she never got. And
You
I
said
know
it's bringing the
mom,
family
too,
back
like,
together.
from years ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is awesome.
I think for me that goes back to the control piece is when you try and orchestrate what God's plan is, you often disrupt the fruit that he wanted to give you, or you prolong it,
Yeah,
and
I mean-
it's such a I'm not saying that everyone's called to do what she did, to lay down having a relationship. I think
Right.
you need to
Every
seek that
situation's
out.
different.
Yeah, that's you and the Lord.
But the beautiful thing that I did, she did so well is she was an engaged mom. This young boy had a rough go. I mean, he had some attitude stuff, and
He told me how to be a youth pastor.
I remember being called in to the school and different. He gave his mom the runaround, and she never let go of that rope. And with either one of her kids, and she's just did a really great job of, I'm going to lean in and control what I can control, and I'm going to trust God. And I just remember her doing that in every season. and seeking wisdom. Like we talked about feedback. She was looking for feedback all the time. Help me. And the other thing is, I felt she did a really good job of asking for help.
That's right.
I think a lot of single parents out there don't know how to ask for help because they feel like they're a burden. You can easily become a burden when you're unhealthy. But healthy people want to help healthy people. And so working on being a healthy person and putting yourself in a community, you're just going to find people that want to help you. I mean, I don't know how many different people we've had come through that as long as you are working on your stuff, I'm happy to help you.
Yes.
You stop working on your stuff, I don't want to help you. Like we were helping a single dad. We want to help you. We are here. We are committed. What can we do to throw our strengths at
The
you?
entire community rallied around him.
I mean, and it was crazy impressive. Financial help. Also, I mean, just we were all of a sudden he had an army behind him. And then he stopped working on the problem. And then the grace lifts for everything everyone's doing. Because it's no fun to help someone that doesn't have a problem when you're like, I don't know if you realize you got a problem.
Yeah.
You stepped in dog poop and you're trying to come in my house with my white carpet. No, you can't come in here. And then you're hurt and offended. So I think pay attention to, getting a community around you, paying attention to your blind spots, asking for feedback because everybody wants to help that. Everybody. And I think more than ever, I'm so grateful that we have each other in our home because I don't know how many times I'm like, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't have capacity. No fun mommy is present. So if you want to keep having 3 kids and not slowly start losing them, I suggest that you take over because it's not going to go.
We have that too. I don't know how single parents sometimes. I'm like, my mom was single mom her whole life. I'm like, there was nobody to go. I'm done.
Yeah.
I tag team. I'm out. Like Lauren comes home a lot. We have to drive a lot for sports and stuff. And so she's like, I'm done. I'm like, I got them. As soon as you get home, I got them. We'll grab the groceries. We'll bring them in. You go have alone time.
It's hard when you do run around errands outside and then manage that. Hey parents, let's be real. As every parent from the beginning of time has discovered, kids don't come with a manual. Parenting is a learning journey from the beginning to end. And like all learning journeys, it's full of lessons, challenges, questions, mistakes, and messes. One of the biggest reasons so many of us get scared, discouraged, frustrated, and overwhelmed as a parent is we think the goal of parenting is to become perfect parents who raise perfect children, which leads us to adopt the fear-driven strategies that focus on avoiding mistakes and messes, and we use control and punishment to change behavior. I wrote a book called Imperfect Parenting, where I explain the true goal of parenting, a safe, loving, heart-to-heart connection with our kids. Pursuing the goal of connection is what sets us up to influence the hearts, minds, and behavior of our children as we guide them on their own learning journey to becoming healthy, confident, and emotionally intelligent. This book will give you the tools you need to lay down the goal of perfection and become fully engaged in your journey of building a healthy, connected family culture where your children can thrive. You can find Imperfect Parenting by going to www.lovingonpurpose.com and clicking store. That's www.lovingonpurpose.com and click store.
One thing I was thinking when Ben was talking about the whole God factor, like, Abram and Sarai wanted to rush a promise for their family and ended up with Hagar and Ishmael. And that didn't turn out good. Then you have when Jesus talked about offense around John the Baptist. John the Baptist was in prison. He's questioning who Jesus is, and Jesus says, blessed is he who's not offended because of me. I think in that, John the Baptist is disappointed because Jesus hasn't got him out of prison, and he's supposed to set prisoners free, right? But what I'm seeing in this is John wants Jesus to do what Jesus is supposed to do when John wants him to do it, the way John wants him to do it. And I think John is bordering on being offended at God because he's in a certain situation that's not working out, and he is offended because he cannot control Jesus. And I think just
I think
when
that's a lot of people's offense.
That's a lot of people's offense.
I've
It's
never
like,
felt that before.
I can't control. Well, I think in
Don't
Adam,
lie.
Sarcasm.
Adam had the same thing.
Yep.
But it was different because Adam goes to God, the woman you gave me.
I'm a victim to this.
I think Adam's offended because God will not control Adam. God would not make him do the right choice.
Yep.
You gave me a woman. She gave me the fruit. This is your fault. And he's mad at God because God would not force him to make the right decisions, which is like, I got to let go of that control issue. I cannot control my husband or wife's decisions. And you, God,
great
it's
point.
not your I'm blaming you for
Yeah.
giving me them. But then in John's case, it was, I can't control God. Oh, so I just, in this, I'm going, wow, to hear that young man's mom's story, I'm like, wow, she didn't rush God. She didn't try to make it happen in her own and end up with Hagar and Ishmael. She didn't, and she didn't get offended. I mean, I'm sure she felt it. I'm sure she felt it a lot. Like, my dream is not happening. My family is, my husband is
I
gone.
got
My
to
kids are.
see her after getting remarried and then having a
glowing?
baby. She's glowing, and we're giggling because I said, your babies are all grown up.
Adults. They're adults.
And
He has
we're
a
just
beard.
laughing and laughing. And she's like, I'm so tired, but I'm so happy.
Yeah.
You know, and so
I can imagine.
the appreciation for it and just the gift that God's redeemed is beautiful.
And this is parents in general. I think we are given gift, and the time they're in our home is limited.
Yeah.
We're their parents forever, but
Yeah.
the time that we have this amount of influence and input in their life is limited.
Yeah.
And so it's so easy to get offended at God. It really is as parents, because I want to see that thing developed in them. You know, I have a dad I've been talking to, and he gets really scared when this thing flares up in his sons. He has a bunch of sons, a whole quiver, and you know, they'll do something, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna end up on the same road I was, and they're gonna end up all messed up, and they're 6." And he's just so scared, and he's leading from this place, and it's just like it's such a different thing to trust God than to live from that fear place and try and make
that's-
something happen.
That's it. Control comes when we're in fear.
Yep.
Fear makes us want to control, so we then don't feel fear anymore. And so I think if we're looking at this whole conversation, it's like, single parents can't control this, can't control that,
Blended
can't
families,
control
they've got
God, blended
all
There's
this.
so many dynamics all around this, but I think it's like, oh, if we're going to look at this whole conversation, it's like, don't partner with fear and let go of the need to control everything other than what
Yeah.
you can.
Well, this isn't just for blended families or single parents.
No,
This
it's
is
for
just
everybody.
parents in
This is
general.
for all of us.
Stop trying to control
Leaders.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets really
And control
messy.
is a sign you're in fear,
Yeah.
and fear is a sign you're not in love. You've maybe this divorce, maybe this situation is trying to convince you that you're not loved by God, that He doesn't care about you and your kids, and all of it's like, oh, love will cast out the fear, control will reveal the fear, love will cast it out.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nope.
I'm just thinking about the asking for help piece. That's kind of what started this whole revelatory conversation we're having, Seth. You've started again. But I just think about this example we had with this one single mother early on, you know, early on in our parenting journey.
I know. Lainey was like
She was young.
first grade,
Yeah.
maybe.
You know, so we're starting to use the tools and we're learning ourselves. But, we're pretty familiar because I married Danny Soak's daughter. And but the single mother, she's realizing I need some help. And I need to access the people around me, or I'm not going to be very fun to be with myself.
Yeah.
And so she starts using tools like Hassle Time, which if you don't know what that is,
It's awesome.
it's
the
so
best.
helpful. But it's the exchange of time. You know, you felt hassled for X amount of time, And so what started to happen is she would call us and say, I need help. And he's hassled me. And I don't have the energy. And I'm not even sure what to do. We're living in an apartment. And can he come pull weeds at your house? Absolutely.
Yep.
We would love to be helpful.
Man.
And he would come over and, I mean, you could just see it on his face, and his entire body is just leaking. I'm mad. I don't want to do this.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, all that. And he would show up, and we would just require, just kind of keep his feet to the fire. Like, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take you, buddy. This is what your mom said needs to happen. So these 4 foot of weed area, and she was always so thankful, and he usually got there. You know, he usually got there. It didn't happen very many times, only a couple of times. But I think just those 2 points for me keep coming up. It's I'm not trying to rush God. It's really His timing. And in that, I need to get really good at asking for help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you're paying attention to the culture that you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not disqualified if you're a blended family or a single parent.
Absolutely.
To create a thriving and amazing culture. You just have to do it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what...
Extra on purpose. Because even...
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do it on purpose. Me and Lauren have to do it. We're all doing it, but...
You have to
gotta
be an
crank
engaged
that way
parent.
up.
And I say, you know, culture happens one of 2 ways, on purpose or an accident. And so if you're not being intentional, it's just going to start happening.
Yeah.
And you are doing cleanup instead of directing. So one of the things that I remember just talking with I was getting tea from our local little tea store here, and she's recently married. She's never had children, but she married into to a man that had 2 kids. And she says, it's amazing. We love it. It's so much fun. I'm having a blast. But I don't know what to do when the kids come back from their mom's house because they're anxious, they're disrespectful. Mm-hmm. I feel like we are constantly fighting. And so I just started asking her a series of different questions, and we came to the reality that these kids are expected to adjust from one culture that, you know, is mom, which, I mean, children are designed and created to long for connection with their parents, whether they're together or not.
Absolutely.
And so they have this deep sense of commitment and covenant with their mom. Probably very different environment than when they come home to their dad who's remarried. Who, let's say they both have great environments, maybe just different, but still the requirement of going back and forth in a living situation. We talked a lot about adjusting the expectation of kind of almost like a shuttle re-entering the atmosphere. You're like, hey, we need to set ourselves up for success. So if you require the same chore lineup expectation for how they're talking to you, and they are emotionally decompressing from mourning, I'm now leaving one environment, going to another, you're not going to be successful. So I always encourage my blended homes that you set yourself up for success, change your expectation. Some kids need a couple hours in their room. Some kids need a time outside before they come back home. Some kids need a couple of days. So figuring out what your kid needs, and then you adjust your expectations so you can parent well.
Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed the whole time and frustrated.
And it's just frustration. Like, and then the tendency, because this is what we identify, is she says the mom's this, the mom's that, the mom this, mom that. I said, do you talk that way in front of them? And she goes, I don't know. I said, well, if you don't know, you probably are. Yeah. I said, what you're not trying to do, because I know your heart, is you're not trying to pull down or disqualify or minimize who this woman is to them.
Otherwise, that makes it even harder for those kids to transition back into your...
And so I always say, do not talk negatively about your ex or about whoever your current spouse is married to's ex, because then you put your kids in a situation is us or them. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being mindful of, you know, let's say you don't agree with everything that's going on there. You don't need to point it out.
Yeah.
You work on your culture.
Yeah.
There's that funny little video of that little girl trying to buckle her seatbelt. You worry about yourself. That's what I want you to do. You worry about yourself because you need to pay attention to the culture, them coming back in, that they feel safe, they feel understood, they've got the capacity. You've got the capacity for them to be overly emotional or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on your culture.
That's so good. Kind of picture as I was like, give them a long exit ramp from that freeway and a long entrance ramp onto yours.
That's good.
Yeah.
So they can not crash into everything.
You're just setting everybody up for success. If
Yeah.
it's really hard to do family dinner that night, but you really want to because you feel like we need to connect. Well, maybe that's not working.
Yeah.
So change it.
Yeah.
If you value family dinners, but the coming back into the home never goes well, figure out what will.
Yeah.
So that the next night you actually get this thing
right.
that restores a connection, puts you
Yeah.
all back together. But stop trying to make something happen for the sake of routine.
Yeah.
Figure out what you
That's
need.
good.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's so good. That's
I-
important right there.
it is. It's just helpful. I think that's the part, especially if you've never been a parent. That's the other thing. Figure out, get on the same page. When you get married, if you inherit children, get on the same page.
Yeah. So don't go kill the person that gave the whistle.
Don't do it. Don't fall into the trap.
Man, I feel like we could just keep talking.
Yeah.
You guys get to keep talking
We
about
will.
this one.
We will.
This is
God's
great.
timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
God's
it's all
timing.
good
That's
stuff.
like the theme for today was it really is. He is paying attention. So.
Yeah.
And he
He's-
cares.
He's in those
So
details.
deep.
He's not. He's never abandoning you, and he's never forgetting the dreams in your heart. I guess that's the
That's great.
piece to remember.
It was really cool. One fast thing to wrap that up. Anna out there, her and I were talking the other day, and she was talking to someone who's not doing well, losing it, feeling like God is not there. And she goes, hey, when has God ever let you down? And the person goes, it's happened a lot. And a couple days later, when the emotions were settled, the person came back to her and said, I'm sorry, he's never let me down. I was only looking at this through this moment and through this lens of where I'm at right now. But when I actually look back for real, he has never let me down. And that's a good spot.
Yeah.
He cares. He loves you.
Yep. That's it.
He's in it.
All right. Well, we're all imperfect parents, so let's do it together. And
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
Yep.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.